All right, welcome everyone to the next episode of Dude, Where's My Flashlight? Today we have none other than Margarita Rubiera from Boulder, Colorado. Margarita, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you, Aaron?
I'm doing great, thank you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you as well.
Thank you. I saw that maybe you spent the holidays in the Midwest, and did you do any light painting out there?
Yes, I did. I have a brother and his wife who have a farm in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I was like, oh gosh, going to Ohio, it's a lot of, I won't get into politics, but let's just say I'm from Boulder, Colorado, a little bit of, it was wonderful. They have barns that were built in 1850 and talk about the most idealistic place to light paint is in these old barns, and I'll be posting some of those images soon. Because they're, I mean, 1850, gosh, we're talking 130 years? No, 120 years. Right, wait, no, 120 plus 170 years.
170 years, that's a long time.
An old barn, right?
I'm surprised they're even still standing.
Well, standing is a relative term.
Some of the dilapidated, abandoned buildings, which I often am looking for, and I'm having a struggle to find, can be an amazing place because you just get that kind of like dark, creepy feel. You got a lot of mood. The story of the setting is already there for you, and so yeah, I'm always looking for good old buildings to play in.
If you ever make the trek out here to Colorado, there is a place called the Water Tower place. It's in Pueblo, and that was probably the most energetically powerful place I have ever light painted. It was an old slaughterhouse, like way old, dating back to at least the 1930s, and really did a lot for the entire USDA industry of how to package meat.
Yeah.
But the amount of energy that was in that place, not only that it had been abandoned for so many years, but what the history of it itself was. That was some of the most intense, energetic, abandoned, quote unquote, places that I have ever light painted, and that was something you just never forget.
Yeah. You never forget the feeling. And speaking of longevity, I wanted to talk about your tenure here in this light painting community. There's so many questions that stem from just doing this, but I guess let's take it back for the viewers or for the audience, and let's talk about the first light painting you ever saw, and then when was that, and let's progress as the time goes forward.
The first light painting I ever saw.
Yeah, like who introduced you to it, or how did you find light painting? Like, when was it? Like, how long ago?
Well, so the first light painting I ever saw that I knew was the light painting was probably only, I think it was back in January. I've been actually researching it to try to get my dates right. It was December 2017, January 2018. And I was like, oh yeah, so light painting. I had heard of it. I started using the light painting tag, but I'm not the best on social media, so I never actually went to the tags to see what it was. But it was around that time that I saw my first real light paintings, and through social media, which I've been a little bit on the slow track with social media, to put it nicely. It's a love-hate relationship because I don't base my artwork and I don't base the value of my artwork on likes, because thanks for the thumbs up, but guess what? It's really about what it does for me, what it does for the people I'm working with, what's behind it on a more spiritual level. And so the very first quote unquote light paintings that I have since been told were light paintings. I was like, oh, I was doing long exposure with these crazy, glow sticks. That was 2003. So technically that's when I first started playing around with long exposure and lights that I had created. And it was kind of a offshoot of the fact that I'm into the music scene, and I had a lot of glow sticks because I like to create glow stick like sculptures and things like that. And I decided to make a big ball out of these glow sticks. I was watching a friend of mine's cabin who was on tour with, I don't know if you ever heard of Street Cheese Incident, but he's a huge merch guy for them, and they were on tour. So I was watching his cabin, which had no electricity, but I had my good old SLR camera, and I built this huge ball. I don't know if it'll fit on the screen here, but out of these glow sticks, and it was a steep canyon, and set up my gear and just, first I did spins with the glow stick ball that I made, and then I rolled it down the canyon. And it wasn't that long ago I found those photos, because those were, film. Back then. I was late on the digital world start. So that's really when I first got into the idea of long exposure. I've always been an avid photographer ever since I was a kid. I've loved it. I've seen the world in ways that people think are unique. I see highlights, shadows, I see color contrast, but I also see the details that sometimes maybe get overlooked that are just so beautiful. I see so much beauty in nature that it's almost overwhelming, but it's just so much fun. I can be out there. Well, I think I should live in a tent, actually, is what I've decided. But other than that, I've always been into photography, and that was really my first experience with, and I had no idea settings. I just knew I had to leave the shutter open longer. I knew I needed to capture these light trails, and that was fun. So that was my first experience with the world of light painting. But this is way before social media. I actually didn't even have high-speed internet until almost 2011. So I lived up in the mountains, where I was the only neighbor who even had running water. So the idea of getting high-speed internet, I was a little behind in that world. And so I really didn't discover social media and what it was about, like Facebook, until 2010. And first high-speed internet was late 2010, early 2011.
And that's not a bad thing, actually, because, one of the common themes in this podcast is, staying true to yourself as an artist, staying true to yourself, your uniqueness, loving your art enough to make it your own, and loving yourself and your passion of this craft, to be unique and diversify yourself so you can stand out and you can contribute to this wonderful community. And I think you said it best. Sometimes social media steers us in the mainstream kind of way, and like you, I tend to buck the norm. I tend to if everyone else is doing it, I try to do the opposite.
I have respect for what you do, just so you know.
Thank you. It's not easy, and I think that's a lesson that I would, hopefully people to listen to this would like to share and say, look, you know what? Sometimes shortcuts lead to nowhere, and hard work and, well, like you, longevity is the key. And I guess I got to ask you, Margarita, in the 16 years that since the big glow stick light ball, have you wanted to just stop? Have you ever been? I know you ebb and flow, and I want to talk about the ebb and flows. But have you ever just wanted to stop? And what makes you want to light paint still? Like what drives you?
Light, energy. Everybody has their happy place. For me, my happy place is when I'm creating. I create 40 times more than I ever share on social media, because a lot of it is kind of personal, and some of it, and I love to also branch out and open my own comfort zone to where I am willing to share on social media. So that's been its own journey. As far as wanting to just give it up, I think that we all have periods where things happen in our lives and it becomes more of a struggle to create quality that makes us happy. For me, it's never been about likes. It's never been about feedback from other people. It's about what I've created, the energy of it within myself, or if I'm, working with models, or if I'm working with a client, the energy I see it give them. Oh my gosh, the beauty of seeing somebody look at the back of a screen and be like, I was a part of creating this. That's like the best high ever, you know, if you want to call it. It's just, so while there have been a few periods where, and sometimes it's been secondary to other things that have happened, like injuries, literal injuries that I'm not supposed to lift up a camera kind of thing with, as my son does not like me saying, hashtag Tarzan fails, out of trees, things like that.
Yeah.
So there have been moments where it's been a struggle, but I have not really ever had a period where, since I've gotten back into light painting, because there's a long time period there where I was helping other artists, other art forms, working with some artists that I don't know if you would have heard of them, but more local artists here. But Phil Lewis is a big one who has been, he's become a name everywhere with his artwork. So just helping other artists and what they do, and creating designs, because I do a lot of drawing, creating designs for boutique artists who happens to be my son's father. You know, I used to do that a lot, where I'd create designs for like the String Cheese, you know, New Year's show, or the Widespread Panic, like Red Rock show. Do you know them?
Yeah, of course.
Oh my gosh, another, yeah, okay. But anyway, so there was a time period there where I was focused more on just drawing, but still taking my photography and doing my photography. As far as light painting, when it became a pure on like crackhead addiction, you know, in all the right ways, that really didn't start until I started getting into a lot more kinetic photography, where I was doing everything from moving my camera from a lightning strike into then like creating it where it looks like it's over a different scene, or just kinetic photography where I'm zooming in, zooming out, like, or just moving the camera with intentional movements. I am also a crystal hound. Like I'm a rock hound. I love to go like dig rocks. Yeah, I love it. If you saw the rest of my house, you know I'm a rock person, and that's why nobody likes to help me move. They're like 3 tons of rock. But no, but so anyway, I started, you know, using a lot of my crystals that I've collected, and putting them in front of my lens just to see like what effects, and that got me into the prismatic effects, like the, you know, and just loving that. This is all before I even knew light painters existed, like anywhere, and I just knew I enjoyed it and I loved it. And then I found, you know, a laser at a show I was working at, Electric Forest, you know, and they were selling lasers. I was like, oh, I could do things with these. And so I got those, and then I ended up getting L wire. And then I found at the dumpster this crazy metal, like box thing. And so I took the L wire, and then I was like, oh, if I move it fast enough, then I get this like crazy flow. But then you get, you know, and then if I zoom, you know, if I do a full zoom, like, you know, one of the first light paintings I ever actually posted on Instagram almost reminds me of Pink Floyd's, one of their covers, because of the way that it like zooms in and zooms out. And, you know, and then porcelain doll heads that have been cracked, that my son, you know, doesn't like porcelain dolls, and I get them creepy, and I think they're fun to like use props. So, you know, doing things like with those guys, and you know, just using whatever I had available. And then it just went from that to where every night I found myself wanting to create. And so coming up with, and this is way before I knew there were light painting companies where you could purchase things. I'd never met a light painter. So I was creating things from some pretty silly, fun, you know, household items versus, you know, things I found. We've got great dumpsters in Boulder.
Oh, I love it.
But you can really find some amazing things. And so I really got back into it in 2017. So I was doing kinetics for a couple of years prior to that, where I was, you know.
Well, you mentioned the passion sort of stems from seeing the models or the people you're working with or collaborating with. You see their faces light up, and you see the joy that emanates from them. And one of the things, even looking through your feed and getting to know you as an artist, is the beautiful alchemy that you put into a storytelling, but not only just the visual. You actually take the time and give a beautiful quote that corresponds to the art piece. And not a lot of people do this. I also do this, and I think to myself, no one ever reads this. No one's ever reading what I write. But you know what?
Okay.
And it's okay. But the few of us that do it, and the few of us that do read it, they probably appreciate it, or they understand the concept behind that. So from me to you, I would like to say thank you for that. Um, it, yes, it's so good. And I want to talk about the joy, when you said collaborating with other people. I want to talk about the Lucid, the studio art flow. I want to talk about the 600 young, beautiful minds that you were able to touch, and they got them in the box. I want to know more about the box. I want to know more about the night. Tell me what that is, and tell our viewers, what that project is.
So 600 people, the 600 kids you're talking. Okay, so that's again, ironically, I had met at this point. I had met Dan Chick online. I had never actually met a single light painter in person, but I saw the virtual ink software come out by Eric Perret. And not having ever met another light painter in person, just barely seeing that there's this social scene world, like, in the social media world, but doing photo shoots with individuals. I do everything from maternity light painting shoots to, I do a lot of, I've done a lot of photography with movement artists, so aerial artists, just acro yoga kind of things. And just seeing how inspired, even people who have other creative outlets, seeing how inspired and just how much joy it brought them to be a part of that creative process. And I'm like, because I do other regular photography too, it helps pay the bills a little more. But, just to see how much energy was ignited within them just to be a part of that creative process. That's just beautiful, so beautiful. So I ended up somehow coming across the virtual ink software, and I had invested in it with my tax return. I believe I was one of the first 10, at most 12 people to ever. I think I was one of the first 10 based on the price I got, but that or the first 12 to invest in the virtual ink. And that was a concept that I kept quiet. I didn't, there's only one person I'd even shared that I had purchased the software from. Because like I said, it was still a couple of weeks before I ever met a light painter in person. And, but immediately when I saw that software, I saw this, I just envisioned this, the ability to share it with so many more people. And kids adore being light painted. Oh my goodness, talk about, I consider myself somebody who has childhood wonder and a grown-up mind at all times. I am just, I don't say, what am I going to be when I grow up? Because that's not going to happen. It's just, I will always forever be the eternal child. But, as far as just with my wonder and my sense of magic, with the world. And so I invested in it, and I spent a solid year. Every extra cent I got, I would invest, and I thankfully so blessed. I have this place here in Boulder called Resource Material. Like, it's Resource 2000 is what it used to be called, but it's materials that people use or don't use. They tear down an $800,000 house to build their $3 million house. This is Boulder, Colorado, and so they donate the materials from the house or the hotel they knock down. And it's a warehouse and a yard that has all these crazy things, from PVC tubes to connectors, like that fit the universal connector, that fit, everything you can imagine, to one of the best scores ever, to pool lights that had literally $1,000+ of pure good fibers, like the 0.75 millimeter fiber optic strands in it. Now I'm sitting there having to, do the, strip all of them, but true fiber optics for $10.
Yeah.
You know, and so I got into creating my own tools. So I spent a full year creating tools that were not just good for me, but good for helping to spread that creative spirit to others. And so the children, the 600 kids, that was one of my first like really big events I did with the video light painting software, and it was so much fun. I mean, the line. So this is at an elementary school, and when I say 600, it's probably way more than that because it's 600 students plus their families. And I ended up, my poor girlfriend who was supposed to help me got sick that night. So I did it by myself. So here I am. I'm running 2 Canon DSLR cameras, my software on my computer, a monitor for them to see. It's a lot of work, and trying to give them the tools. But it went so smoothly, and everybody loved it. And then they get their videos afterwards. And just watching how inspired people get when they're the ones actually creating. So that's what it's about. It's about giving them the opportunity to be the creative. You know, I love light painting. I love seeing how it affects the models or the client, and how they just feel as if they've been a part of something so uniquely special that it impacts them for life. And so I kept trying to think, how can I bring this to more people? And that's how I got started with the video light painting software, or video light painting, and it's called Lucid Flow. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Yeah.
And there's a YouTube video, and there's a video on my Facebook, Lucid Flow, the Facebook, where it shows, just intro, and it talks about my philosophy. And it really talks about what it is that's motivating me to do that, which is truly about the survival of humanity. That might sound pretty deep, but me, without creativity, without art, humanity is doomed. We have so many things in the world going on right now that are heartbreaking.
Yes.
And yet we have light, and we can spread light, and to spread that creative fire in others so that they can go out there and do it too. And I can't tell you how many kids have contacted me. How do you set your camera? And I'm like, so what are you using? A little point and shoot? No problem. I give them the little settings they can use, and they create their, and I've had a great time. I've ended up teaching some kids one-on-one and I just do it voluntarily, as far as that goes. And it's fun. It's very technical, these video light painting software. And there have been some glitches that, Eric Prey's awesome, wonderful, hilarious man who has helped me a lot. He's taken over my computer for me to fix some issues. And, that's what that was about, bringing it to all those kids, and just seeing kids that were shy, and then they'd come back in the line and they'd wait, and then the next time they were all about it, just doing crazy fun things. And of course I can manipulate little things to make it look less than hideous for them, so then they enjoy it, not hideous, but just make it look more than just like a splatter of paint. And so that's what that's about.
And being most familiar, I guess, maybe with the software, way more familiar than me and probably most of the viewers or the audience, what would you like to see in the next version? Or what would you like to be added to this if you could? If you were in there, if you were the computer software engineer, what kind of additional things would you like to see? Where was the next phase, 2.0?
Software?
Yeah, or just in video light painting, should we incorporate this into the curriculum of all elementary schools, and how do we take it that far?
I would love to. A matter of fact, my son just started 6th grade, so now he's in middle school where they actually offer photography. So, I have a pretty full plate 24/7. However, with that being said, I would like to reach out to the librarians, to where I can take it to the library and then have the groups come in and rotate, because these schools in this area, elementary schools have 500 to 600 kids. And so I talked to them briefly. They would all love to do it. It's a matter of getting the flow down with the librarian, and absolutely. And of course I can light paint them, but watching them do it,
Yeah.
like that's when it's like crazy. It's just like, talk about a drug. Oh my goodness, seeing kids just light up, spark up. And I want to take it to, I mean, I've talked briefly with Children's Hospital of Denver, bringing it, because it's something where kids who can't get out of their rooms as much, it's mobile. I can bring it to them. They don't even have to do that much. And to give them that joy, and just to see that spark in the eyes of kids who are dealing with things that we can't understand, and their families. And the thing that's so beautiful about it too is they immediately get their video and the image they created. And I sometimes click it, like if I see a beautiful thing they've created, I can hit a button and it literally saves that image exactly. So they can get multiple images from their video, but then that's theirs, and they can do whatever they want to with it. They can watch it, they can get inspired to do other things, and it really doesn't take a fancy camera. So that's definitely something else I would like to, maybe with the middle schools, since these kids are in a photography class, just like truly teach them how to do basic settings. When we're just in Ohio, for instance, my niece is in a photography class, and my nephew, who wasn't in one, but who is like, sent me messages almost every day since. Now, how do I light paint again? I'm like, put this setting to this. He's like, what is that setting? I said, it's this picture. I mean, at 13 or 12, 13, it's still very new, but they just had so much fun doing it. And just, yeah, it's magical. It's magic. It's just the process, and letting them be a part of that process. That's what I feel like ignites the inner passion, the inner fire within others too.
Yeah. And like you said, in this time of in this day and age, in this time of the world, we need more magic. We need to spread more light. We need to spread more love and creativity and joy, and we need it now more than ever. Hence the podcast. Hence,
we're doing this, by the way.
Thank you. It's a good way.
I just want to take a moment to honor you.
Thank you.
No, because things like this are not, guaranteed, multi-million-dollar endeavors, and that's not what it's about, though. It's about this beautiful sharing of. I mean, I've watched a few of the other podcasts. I try to watch not too many, because I am very sensitive to what happens with other people, and so I wanted this to be as authentic as it could be. And so tell me if I'm not talking correctly, as far as like, this is when you're not supposed to talk. I ask questions. I'm just kidding, but you know what I mean. It's just but the ones I watched were just so inspiring. Especially the DENIS one. That was great. I watched that yesterday, and just seeing his excitement was wonderful. And
yeah, it was a great episode. I did it a little bit ago, maybe 10 days ago, and I've been inspired since. And he's such a inspiration for everyone in this community, and he gives his heart, and he does everything at such top quality. It was an amazing interview. He's an amazing man, great light painter, and can't wait to see where he takes this new shop.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you for that. It is a great endeavor to start this project. It's a project for the community. There's no money involved in this. There is nothing but heart and sharing and just the joy of this art form that is it's transformed my life. It's transformed other people's life. If you're a light painter and you're listening to this or seeing this, you know the feeling when you look at the back of the camera and you've created something special that can last forever. That there's something special for that. And so for us to connect on a deeper level than just what Instagram says, or just a thumbs up or a like or a comment, is really the objective of the podcast. And so thank you. It's you're a part of it now.
And it's an honor. It is a true honor, yes. And I love your philosophy behind it, because it's what it's about. It really is. I mean, I make tools. I don't know if you know that, but I am an avid tool maker. Like, I'm forever. I have a lot of projects, and some of them fail. Some of them, cut my fingers a little bit. but the truth is it's such a joy to make the tools too. And that helps me also with people who are not able to afford, maybe they have a camera, but they can't afford to go out and buy a bunch of expensive light painting tools. I can teach them how to make things from their house. And it's, so for me, there's never secrets, never. Like, you want to know how I did something, you want to know how I made it, you want to know my exact settings, you want to know exactly what I did to any slider I might have done in the basic panel of Lightroom. I'm an open book. I have nothing to hide, because the more I share, I hope the more people pick up on that energy of just like, we have light and we can spread it, and you can be a part of it just as much as somebody who's done it for a while. There is no comparing. You don't have to compare yourself with somebody who's done it for 10 years or 20 years. And it's about what you want to create, as far as, and what inspires you. And, for me, I find inspiration in everything. Honestly, I'm like, oh, it's a blade of grass. Oh, it's a bubble. I'm very, very connected with the natural world. And so everything in the natural world to me is just a huge part of this too.
Well, actually, I should talk about this on the podcast every so often, and I usually do it annually, but I think I'm going to do it every 6 months. Is I blindfold myself, and I do a sensory deprivation. I don't know if you read this in one of my posts a little bit ago. Not many people.
No, but I love it.
That's okay. So I'll tell you what, and it's a really good training technique for light painters just in general, but for humanity, it is nice to rest your eyes from the stimulus, that Instagram, that we're on our phones a lot and we're staring at screens, and we're only learning to appreciate the aesthetic value of something versus what's truly in their true meaning of their spirit, of the thing, of the human, of the object of nature.
Yeah.
And so for me, I did a full light painting session. I recorded it blindfolded. It's really, it sounds scary, but I want to tell everyone that's really not, because if you're painting in the pitch black, which often we are, especially indoors in a studio because it's winter time now and I can't really get outside, there's really no difference between closing your eyes blindfolded and doing it. You might not see the light trail that's burned into your eyes, like when you stare at the sun, you have that dot, you look at the sun.
Right,
so when you're painting, you see that light trail and you can kind of remember where it is, but that goes away. And so you're going to have to visually and spatially remember where you've done it and why, yeah. And I think more importantly than just learning that technique and as a skilled light painter, it really just made me way more empathetic with the disabled community, not just the seeing impaired, but everyone. We always send a smile to somebody walking across the street, or an elderly woman we help across the street or in the crosswalk, but the next time I do that, I'll have a deeper meaning. I'll have a deeper connection with
right.
that community. And I really think that when I paint from a deeper source or a higher, higher consciousness, really, I want to talk about consciousness, and I want to talk about painting from a deeper level of consciousness. I think it really shows in the art form.
Love that. I love it. I love that you did the blindfolding. That's beautiful.
It teaches you humility. It teaches you patience. It teaches you probably the one thing that I'm the most working on right now as a light painter and as human is to slow down. Often I get into set and I am so excited and I've got so much adrenaline and I'm like, I have to take a couple deep breaths. Dennis and I talked about meditating a lot in between each of the in between each of the images, which I think is a great practice. I don't do it as much as I should. I meditate outside of light painting, but I think meditating during the whole process is very valuable. And it teaches you humility and trust in that you're going to step out into the unknown and land on something concrete, which is, humanity. It brings hope back that people will help each other and that people really do care for the other person. So Margarita, I want to talk about the daytime light painting because I think you are the first guest that's ever come on the show that's actually done daytime light painting. And fun. So it's super fun. And, we mostly think about light painting as like, oh, we have to wait till darkness. But technically with the right amount of luminosity, you don't. You know, you really don't. So can you walk me through the shot? I think it took you a few to get the plexi up. I think it was up to your face. I'll show the shot right here.
Yeah.
But can you talk us through that?
Honestly, I had been out there for that shot. I had been out there. It was probably about 0 degrees when I started, and it was cold. And I had on my, big winter jacket, but it was bright because you have snow, and yet I was determined that I could get the settings just to do a quick, very, very quick light painting. I've done a lot of light painting in the daytime, actually, and I have another concept that I have yet to implement, but where I want to do a lens swap with daytime and light painting. So that might sound a little complex, but I just love bringing in, because photography is about light. It's all about light. So to bring in some of the natural light of the world and still create a light painting from it, to me, is just, it's fun. It's a little bit on the magical side. So I do a lot, and that's more with light blades, because I've got some strong torches that I use with my KYO, which I absolutely adore. That Patrick Roshan made the KYO, and it was changing for me when I got that. I mean, that's when I took off with my making flexis and all sorts of fun stuff. But yeah, it's fun. I haven't used an ND filter, and I know a lot of people use ND filters if they like paint in the daytime, but I've done everything from, finding a slightly dark, mossy area in the middle of the day, but it has a good shadow, and I can get my settings to where I can do a quick. So yeah, I've done several quick, it's mostly with blades, and I just love it. I love it. I mean, I've done some tubes too. A lot of this is not stuff I've ever posted, but I've done a fair amount of light painting in the day, and it's fun. I mean, it's fun to me because it's an extra little challenge, but at the same time, the challenge is making sure you're still creating light with light all around you, and becoming one with the natural light too of nature. I've never tried light painting in the daytime inside, just outside. I mean, I will, but that's only if I'm doing it in dark and I, go in the bathroom and. But yeah, no, I've done a lot when we're camping, and the sun's coming up, and it's not even blue hour, it's not even golden hour. We're just full on daylight, and I've gotten some pretty fun results with it. But yeah, I don't know. I try a lot of things. I don't know if you've noticed, but
Of course.
I definitely do not limit myself to just one type of light painting, and I find so much beauty in all the different types that, oh my gosh, it's endless. And to me, it's partly therapy. For me, holy cow, like, who needs Prozac? Not that I, but it is therapeutic, and it really, when I don't light paint for a while, I feel a part of me missing. And so, I don't know if you heard my cat, who's Leo.
Mr. Leo.
And he's been getting into some light paintings with me, where he just likes to hang out with me, and I think I might do a series on him. And we have another cat too, but he's not so into the light painting. But yeah, it's just I don't find any one particular type of light painting to be what I have to do. And certainly, and it's a blessing, the whole social media thing, because I love seeing what other people do. I feel inspiration from what they do. I love sharing techniques. I love sharing anything anybody wants to know. I mean, I am an open book when it comes to anything and everything. I have nothing to hide. And furthermore, I hope it's going to be something that inspires other people. With that said, I should probably post more, because it's not about the likes for me. It never has been. Everything I've done with Instagram has been 100% organic, and it's not like I have a gazillion followers or anything like that. I don't worry about that, because if somebody sees my stuff, it's because they've sought me out, or they've seen me with some hashtag and they've chosen to follow me. Yeah. And for instance, a woman contacted me not too long ago, and I'm doing a wedding for her in the fall where it's light painting. And, you know, that's fun. That's like, because she just thinks it's, and I've done senior portraits, I've done, you know, attorney shoots, I've done like things like that. But what was the question?
That's funny. Well, we were talking about daytime light painting, and we're talking about possibly using an ND filter. And I guess my question, technically, since I've never actually attempted this, which is surprising because I've tried to do a lot of different stuff and a lot of it fails, which actually I prefer to fail because that means I'm trying new things. And I really appreciate that about myself, is that I can actually just pick myself up, and if that doesn't work, I just shift it a little bit, and if that doesn't work, I shift it again, and if that doesn't work, I shift it, and by the fifth or sixth shift, I actually just nuke the whole thing and grab a whole nother new project and start shifting that thing, because then I'll come back to another one.
That's awesome.
But anyway, so technically,
That could be. That's
yeah,
awesome.
thank you. And so are you on f22 and an ISO 100 as that's the darkest settings that I can?
Super light, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, and then an ND filter could
Goes to
augment that.
32. You know, like the
F20, F32?
macro lens that goes to 32. And I've actually gone that high when it's way brighter than you'd ever imagine, especially with snow, just to capture it. But then I have to make sure I have very high luminosity on, you know, or high lumens on my torch. And it takes several tries to get the balance of getting the actual light. And I find, you know, of course, I try to like expose for the ambient light first, and then I'm like, okay, I have 1.5 seconds to get an actual light painting in with it. But it's, yeah, I've done a few. The only orbs I've ever done were in the daytime. So, like, and I think I maybe posted one long ago of those, but they're fun. And daytime light painting, it is a very big challenge, but.
So one thing I noticed when I'm doing my kata blades, and I love my Kaio system too, by the way, I absolutely adore it. I use it all the time. Is when I'm facing the blade at the camera, the light from the torch, and I don't have a Kaio here, but here's a Claris. It's very bright. It's a 2000 lumens. If you aim this at with the blade attached here, if you aim it at the camera, you're going to get a hot streak, a white streak, if you will. Which I would think that in daytime light painting, you would want to almost articulate or, you know, hold your blade like this, so you're actually shooting at the camera. Whereas in darkness, I kind of always make sure I don't aim it at the camera, you know, because I don't want that white streak in the middle of my, you know, model's face.
Right? Absolutely. There are ways around that white streak that, you know, I can talk to you about later, or I can. You know, there are ways around about getting that white streak or that super bright, you know, that super bright hot spot. There are ways to reduce that. I would have to send you the link, but I found these wonderful gels that are a lot like the Roscoe's, and Roscoe's are great. They're a little bit thicker. So getting those very strategically placed where you're going to normally get that super hot spot, it helps a lot to allow your flow to just be natural and the process to be really natural, like during the nighttime. As far as the daytime, you do want some of that for sure. And you know how you can cover the KYO with and Kaio, I guess I'm supposed to call it the Kaio. Yeah, you know, I've never pronounced anything correct in my life. So, you know, like the things you draw with are crowns. You know,
nice.
crayons, whatever you say. But you do want a little bit more of that. And then of course you can use gaffer tape around the edge of the Kaio blade or the Kaio itself to like help decrease some of that. And then I find myself a lot of times wanting to increase how much of that shows through with daytime light painting.
Yeah.
Another thing that I don't know if you've noticed with some of my blades that I make by hand is I put holographic paper between two of my blades, where especially like I've twisted two that like twisted together, and then I put the holographic, and that really adds another dimension of luminosity, you know, to the actual blade, so that you can really get some beautiful streaks and also have a little bit more in the daytime to work with. So. Yeah.
Cool. Speaking of daytime light painting, and speaking of thinking outside the box for techniques and just being creative and being unique. What about, I mentioned this to Dan Roberts at the last meetup we were at, and he was talking about daytime light painting. And I said, well, think about daytime light painting. You're actually, what if we actually were in full light and then we brought in shadow? Just like we're in full shadow and we bring in light as a light painter, why didn't we just upside down that? Why don't we just reverse that and have a full light on you, and then we have the absence of light, and that would be the reverse light painting.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, like you talked about the magic of the ambient light of the natural surroundings. You could really start to get magical in that kind of concept, which I don't think I've seen yet out there, which I don't even know if it's possible. But you know what? Anything is possible. So let's try to figure this one out. I'll try to do a couple and post them.
As Charles Silverstein says, anything is possible, child. Anything can be.
Yes, and that is my house motto. That is my life motto. And it's a good segue here. I'm not sure if you can see behind me, but this is a full wall of gratitude. Gratitude runs my life. It is the one thing that I keep coming back to, that I keep giving into, and I keep getting so much back. Margarita, is there a message that you would like to write, or by proxy? I will do this after the podcast. Was there something that you would like to, and you don't have to say it right now, just send it to me a DM, or, but if you'd like to send a message, or if there's a motto of your life, I would love to put this on my wall and meditate to it every morning. That's
wonderful. So it needs to be about gratitude, you said.
No,
right?
It could be anything. It could be this is a little piece of you. Obviously, don't, it's not very verbose. It's a phrase or a saying. I don't have a lot of space left on my wall, but there is space, and I made space for this comment. So if there's anything you want to send me or tell me, great.
There's a quote by Oliver Wendell Holmes that I absolutely have adored and lived by since about 8th grade, which is, and there are different translations as far as people will get picky about words. The words, it's about what it means. So I'm going to go back to my 8th grade version, which is a fig and not an arm. It'll make sense in a minute. But he said, I would not give a fig for the simplicity on this side of complexity, but I would give all that I possess for the simplicity on the other side of complexity. And I feel that relates a lot with light painting, because I love complex light paintings, don't get me wrong. I love challenging my brain. I love challenging, okay, so this is this concept I have, my cat's going to drive this VW bus that's about this big, and he's going to be asleep, and he's going to have multiple lens slots. But there's something so beautiful in just kata and just the simplicity of creating a simple piece of light art that can speak in its own way to whoever happens to view it, to whomever wants to view it. And so that quote is huge, huge to me. So I will send you the actual quote if that would work.
It would definitely work. Thank you so much. I will send you a picture in return of it on the wall and its final home. I want to talk about dance. I know how dance is important to you. You've been a dancer your whole life. Body movement and music, it just flows. It seems like light painting is a dance. It's a live performance. I really believe that. I believe every time you hear a shutter click and you do from the first time you actually start light painting, it is a performance until that shutter stops. I want to talk about how important dance is for you. And are you technically, with your lights in your hand, are you dancing in a rhythmic and spiritual movement ever in liquid and fluidity? I want to know more about how you've used dance to be a better light painter.
It really flowed from, I've danced forever, my whole life. I try to dance every day. I have a 12-year-old, when he was a baby, every day I made sure I danced with him for at least an hour in my arms. And he started walking before he was 10 months old because he was listening to African music, and he was, and suddenly starts dancing. It was wonderful, it was beautiful. But dance has been huge for me with with light painting, because it's that meditative flow and getting into it, and especially when it comes to the kata type of light painting, you know, and just really being in the process and in the moment. It's all about the flow of the dance. And interestingly, it was recently commented to me on a lot of pieces I've never shared on social media, but that they all look like music. Somebody said that to me. They said it looks like you have like musical notes, but then it's like this musical dance, and it is, because to me, it's all one and the same, because light painting is not just technical. It's not about your settings. It's not about what equipment you use. It's not about how nice your tools are. It's about the flow of energy. And it's so gratifying to be able to incorporate those two, for me. And that has something to do with the video light painting, which is to dance with it. And that has been something beautiful that I've had the opportunity to see when I've brought it to other people, more adults, where you put on good music and you give them these tools and they dance together and they create these great, beautiful pieces who've never picked up a tool in their life. And they're just like, because they are enjoying the dance. And yes, it's huge. And to me, half the time it's like, oh, maybe, yeah, I've been dancing for 2 hours, so I'm gonna pick up a light painting tool and include that for this part, you know. And it's huge. And to me, some of the most magical things I've ever created have been secondary to the fact that I'm just dancing, and then I bring the light in with me. And some of the most meaningful pieces to other people as well have been from sessions where I'm dancing at the same time. But yeah, dance is huge, huge, huge. I'm very involved with music, and just it's I mean, everything from classical to, you know, pretty lights to Xaviera to, you know, just all different forms of music. I actually work with some music clubs here in town as a secondary job. I'm a bouncer.
Ah, nice.
It's a partly, and I hope my boss doesn't hear this, but part of my reason for doing it is because these are like one of the theaters I work for. It's been around since 1906, and it's gorgeous. And I would love to bring a lot of light painters here so that we could light paint it. It's one of the most magical places I can imagine light painting in.
Yeah.
So dance has just been an integral part of my life forever. And you know, some people get out there on the dance floor and they're worried about what other people think. No, I am there for the flow, and the flow is what it's about. The flow with light painting, the flow with life, the flow with energy, the flow with dancing. It's all about the flow, and what do you want to leave and contribute to the flow? And to me, I want to contribute light. I want to contribute, you know, spreading that light and spreading that passion for finding one's own creative spirit. And that's where my passion lies. It really does. Well, I have a lot of passions, but that's my, you know, and light painting to me is absolutely, it's all energy. It is energy. So yeah, mixing the two of them has been absolutely the one and the same, integral. They've totally flowed.
There's a project I've wanted to do. I mentioned it a little bit with Dan on his podcast, but I mentioned synchronized swimming and putting glow sticks or glow bands on their arms and their ankles, and so when they're upside down inside the water. That's awesome. Yes, and I haven't done that one yet, but I'm working on it. I'm this next project is an offshoot of that, which doesn't involve water and cameras and under the water. It's a whole nother thing that I talked to Dennis about, which there's big things coming there. But something that you might be able to do or help me or think about is actually the same kind of thing, a very choreographed, and since you're a very good dancer, you can choreograph things, and as far as situating lights on the human body, and then be able to coordinate choreograph an actual flow, and actually see what that looks like on film with the certain lights and how you're coordinating the movement. And really, it's it's almost like video light painting in a way, but it's not video. It's almost like you're integrating dance and light and what that motion looks like. And I've wanted to do that with a professional dancer, and I can dance a little bit. You know, I can move my way around the dance floor. Don't worry. But I'm not a really good, you know, I'm not the best dancer. And so for someone like you, I would love to see this project or some sort of, you know, series of photos come out with a professional dancer, with a professional choreographer, and see how that would look, just not only individually, but maybe with a tandem team or 2 or 3 people or even more people, would be quite awesome. I don't know, something to think about.
Absolutely. And actually, I've been speaking with a few movement artists about doing that.
Cool.
There's 2 different ways that we've been talking about it. One is the dancers with the lights on them. I do a lot with a group called Fractal Tribe, and so they do acro yoga, and then they do this crazy German wheel is what it's called, where they're flipping around in this wheel, and we've talked about like choreographing it where they have the lights, because they all make their own LED suits as well. I mean, these are people who are performing at Red Rocks, you know. I don't know if you know Red Rocks Amphitheater here in Colorado. It's a great music venue, but you know, they're very much professional, full-time movement artists who perform with huge bands and things like that. But what we've been talking about is putting the lights onto this wheel that they flip around and do these beautiful things, and then lights onto them. And another one is there's a company that makes different LED toys, Poi and Flow Art Movement props, where you can synchronize the actual, every single person's, their different, whatever it is that they're going to be using, and you can synchronize the colors together. So then you can get jugglers involved. I've actually photographed a juggler who was doing he was doing a presentation for a solar company, but he got into doing these balls at night, or I mean in the dark, and it was so much fun just to watch the flow of his juggling balls and then just seeing the crowd, you know, underneath. And so if you want to ever talk about that more, I do know quite a few, and a few of the movement artists are out in California, and you're in Portland, correct?
Yeah.
So, but they all travel a lot, and so
Cool.
yeah, so that's
Well, I
not.
love it. And it goes hand in hand with the next question. I know it's a difficult one for you, but we have to ask, what song are you going to add to the Spotify playlist? I know there's 1,000 out there, but you can only have one, and I know it's difficult. Which one's it going to be?
I think I'm gonna have to go with Xavier Rudd. I'm gonna have to go with Xavier Rudd.
Oh, I love it. And you're Spirit Bird.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it. I'm very familiar with his music, like you. I find that it inspires me and it connects me instantly. Instantly, when I hear those tones and that intro, I immediately am transformed into another realm. And I think it's an amazing pick. Thank you so much. It's very.
Thank you.
It's so good. And Margarita, the final question. Okay, so imagine in 5 years or less, or hopefully sometime in the future, there is a light painting school that opens, and it's much like what we talked about earlier in the podcast, as far as maybe in the library, but this will be a designated school just for light painting and photography. Like what is your curriculum you would teach in the school?
The first thought that comes to my mind, the first thing that is the primary objective for something like that, is to empower the children to realize that creative spirit is within themselves. And so whatever it takes, if I'm going to let the boys who are acting crazy use these foam, you know, beat each other up that are also LED lights so that they can see even when they're beating each other up, that
it's beautiful.
Beautiful artwork, and then they calm down. I've seen it. It's like, they're like, oh, I want to do this, I want to get crazy, and then all of a sudden they see when they slow down, like what they can create. And so the curriculum for me would be absolutely about zoning in first on showing them how they have that creative that genius within themselves, that we all do. And from there, just helping them see how simple you can start. I mean, I've been actually in touch with a kiddo from Tanzania who it's been wonderful because he loves my artwork or my photography, and he was donated a camera from somebody in America. And so he asks me, and his English isn't so great, and I can't speak exactly what he speaks, but it's been wonderful because I told him, I said, just go on the streets, find grain bottles, and he lives in, like he was raised in a group home or a home for children without families.
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing how excited he has been alone, just like, okay, so I do this. He doesn't have a tripod. That's okay. You can set it down on a rock, and you can, and just seeing how inspired he's been across the world, just trying to help the children. To the curriculum would be about first just getting them to find how much fun it is and realize it's their creativity and they've got the best imagination still, and it's like, and just really ensuring that they leave knowing that they can do whatever they want, whether it's even not with light painting, but just finding their creative spark within themselves and knowing that they have something to offer the world. That is the ultimate goal of whatever the curriculum little details look like. I love to do that. And especially with kids of, there's a lot of refugees in Denver and whatnot, and just dealing, having the ability to do it with kids that maybe don't have a lot of things handed to them. But any kiddos that are into it, I mean, it's just, I can't tell you how much fun. Every time I light painted a kiddo, they're just so amazing, and it's fun. So yeah, so that's,
I love it. Well, Margarita, that's going to wrap up our podcast. I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you from all of our listeners. You've been a wonderful guest. I can't wait to meet you in Light Up Colorado. Are you going to be in Light Up Colorado next year?
I will. Matter of fact, I made sure the wedding I'm doing is not the same date. I said, Dan, do not do it on this date. Please don't do it on this date. So we got it moved.
Awesome.
So we chose a date where I am absolutely committed to being there. I can't wait to meet you.
Likewise. And Margarita, where can we find your photography? I know your Rubiera photography on Instagram and Facebook, I guess. And so you have a website as well.
I do.
I'll put all of those up on the website or up on the podcast, and so people can find you and enjoy more of your beautiful art.
Absolutely. And I do have a website for the video as well, lucidflowvideo.com. I think it's .com. It is .com.
Perfect.
But that one, I might be consolidating them at some point here. But yes, those are the ways to find me.
Well, I can't say thanks enough. I will see you in cyberspace and hopefully see you in person even sooner.
Thank you, Aaron, and have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.